Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Knee Down podcast brought to you by AbsoluteMotorsport.com and the Alloy TV. I'm James Casey, and joining me today, once again, is CK.
Hello.
What we're going to be doing is reviewing the US Grand Prix, looking at the rider market, and then we're going to be moving on to Jerez with a preview of that event coming up, the start of the European season. But starting off with the US Grand Prix, and for a sixth consecutive time, Marc Marquez took a dominant victory in the Circuit of Americas. He took pole position by 0.4 of a second before a three-place grid penalty dropped him down for blocking second-place man Maverick Vinales. So that promoted Vinales to pole, and Marquez dropped down to starting position of fourth, but that did not stop him in any way, shape or form, and Marquez looked on as good a form as anything after troublesome Argentina.
Yeah, business as usual really for Marc in America. Took him 2 laps, if that, a lap and a half to get to the front. Game on.
Yeah, so not really much more to say about that, is it? But just not being effective whatsoever. He said that there was that. He even said there was extra motivation after Argentina, and yeah, a really good performance from Marquez. But you come to expect that with him around this track, and it's not a surprise whatsoever to see him taking victory there. So the main talking points really was what was going on behind him, and of course Andrea Dovizioso, who is thought to be the key title rival this year after last year being the main challenger to Marquez, and he now leads the championship, but it was a little bit of an underwhelming performance in the US. The Ducati was really focusing on being good at all the tracks this year, but it still looks to me like they've got this bike that works really well at some tracks and then just isn't quite there at the other tracks. Do you think that Dovi is going to be able to keep up this championship lead if the bike continues to work this way?
I think with the coming races, I think that'll be really difficult to keep it over the next couple of races, but it might. There might be a couple of wet races in there, and they might play into his hands. So it's difficult to say. I don't see it if the majority of the races coming up remain dry. I don't see him keeping it for much longer at all.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think that Marquez and Honda this year have made a real step forward. I think they were strong in 2017, but they weren't quite at the optimum. And I do think this year, obviously Marquez would have walked Argentina without the problems. So far he would have gone almost victory in Qatar, a dominant victory in Argentina, and a dominant victory in COTA. So obviously pace-wise, he's looking very strong. Ducati struggling, but as you say, wet races could keep him in there. And then we saw last season, it's the second half of the season, wasn't he, where he really kicked on. So do you think it's just all about just staying in the game, really, staying within a distance?
They've got to capitalise on like an Argentina type race. Whenever Marquez makes a mistake, they've got to capitalise. Same with everyone else. But Ducati's with the bipolar performance that they seem to have, they need to minimise the gap to the front in case something does happen. At a track they're not generally considered to be competitive at. They haven't done that the last 2 races.
Yeah. And Ducati then last year ended up with Dovi being that main challenger. Yamaha were the team that really fell off after a brilliant start last season, and it finally looks, after almost a year of troubles, their last win was in Assen last year with Rossi, it finally looks like Yamaha have made a step back in the right direction again. They had a much better event at COTA, and Vinales in particular, I thought, looked back to his best pretty much. And what do you think their chances are now after an improved weekend?
It's too early to tell. I mean, we thought Yamaha were going to pretty much walk it last year with Vinales, and they just totally dropped off. So there's nothing to say that can't happen again. You never really know what can happen. It didn't really seem like much changed, like after Le Mans last year, but they just dropped off. Yeah, I think it's a bit too early to tell if it's going to be a sustained challenge, but yeah, I'm all for them trying to beat Marquez. I don't think they will, but it'd be nice to see them try.
I think I don't think they can challenge him, to be honest, over a season, because there are still, as we saw in Argentina, they did all right there, but they weren't anything special by any stretch of the imagination. I tend to think that they'll be a little bit off, but I think that I reckon they can give him a good run at a lot of the tracks coming up, which are quite strong for them in the past, obviously, where they've taken victories in the last few years. And another man who really performed at COTA was Andre Iannone, which came as a real surprise after being playing second fiddle, basically, to Alex Rins so far this season. Iannone had a great weekend from start to finish, and obviously that in a way is very good for him, but it really showed kind of the potential that he hasn't fulfilled for much of his time at Suzuki. And obviously we'll come on to this later, but is it a little bit too late for Iannone to be putting in these kind of performances?
Yeah, I think it shouldn't be a surprise that he's challenging near the front. It shouldn't be surprising, but because it is, that just shows he's not done anything.
Yeah.
And that was his first Suzuki podium. He already got beat to that. His teammate already beat him to first podium since they've been a pair together. So that doesn't look good.
Yeah, I completely agree. Obviously, he's a man who's won. He won when he was at Ducati. It really shouldn't be a surprise that he's taken a podium after all this time. Yeah, I absolutely agree that it should be a case of we've finally done it. Right, we really need to crack on now. But I think he's burnt his bridges, unfortunately, at Suzuki with obviously last year the performance levels dropped off drastically due to his selection of the engine, and that is what Suzuki was saying. It was completely down to him because Alex Rins wasn't around in that testing phase. He chose the wrong engine, which compromised the performance. And yeah, Rins has really stepped up his game. So I think unless Iannone really carries on this momentum, which to be honest I can't see him doing, because I think he'll probably not be able to sustain the form. I think that might be a bit too late for him. And the final talking point I want to bring up from COTA is Dani Pedrosa. Surgery on his wrist in between Argentina and USA. A week later, and he's competing in the Grand Prix, and he's 7th place, competing with riders like Johann Zarco and Andrea Dovizioso. What an incredible effort from him.
Yeah, what a hero. He's always hurting himself. Every year, he's always getting injured. Usually takes a race off when he gets injured. But no, he kept at it. Kept on the bike. I didn't see any mistakes from him. Yeah, and he looked strong all race. So hopefully that allows him to keep his head up a little bit going into the European season where he has done okay.
Yeah, right. He won Jerez last year.
Yeah. I want him to push Mark. Well, yeah, I'd like him to, but Mark's Mark.
Yeah, I suppose it will depend a lot on Pedrosa being right on the top of his game, but that kind of thing will be a real confidence boost. Still think if I can come 7th with an operated on wrist that was broken. I'm not sure if it was still broken when he was riding, but it was obviously still pretty fresh, that injury. He's really struggling on Friday, but throughout the race, as you say, looked good. If he can do that, then I'm sure back to full fitness on the top of his game, he can really pull it off. And it is crucial for him. As we now look on to looking at the rider market, it is crucial for Dani Pedrosa to be performing, because Honda have not followed the trend of signing riders on early in the season. Obviously, we saw at Yamaha, Maverick Vinales, and Valentino Rossi signing on very early at the start of the season. And Alex Rins is another one he's a done deal at Suzuki in all but a contract. And Ducati, even though they haven't signed Dovizioso yet, they've been offering a contract. Whereas Honda are holding on there. They're holding their cards close to their chest. And they said that they're going to wait a little bit on Pedrosa, whether they're going to offer him a contract extension. Do you think that Pedrosa is going to be at Honda for 2019?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I think that they might wait. Well, I can see they're waiting for a couple of races to decide on 2019. But I think if he the least challenge in the top 5 over the next 3 or 4 races, yeah, I think he'll definitely be at Honda at Repsol 2019.
Yeah, a few races back, I thought he was gone, but from hearing other rider movements, it looks to me, unless Honda take a real big punt, I think that they're going to stick with Pedrosa. What is pretty common thought now is that Johann Zarco has turned down. I'm not sure if Honda have actually approached him, but either way he doesn't want to go to Honda now, and he's looking to go to the KTM factory team instead, obviously with Tech 3 as the satellite KTMs. So I think that that means that Pedrosa will stay. The only other option that has been kind of mentioned would be one of the Moto2 guys in either Joan Mir or Alex Marquez, but I think that'd be way too much of a risk.
I'd say there's more of a risk with Marquez than Mir. To be honest, it took Marquez. It's still taking Marquez.
Yeah,
he's still getting there after. This is his 4th year, I think.
Yeah, 4th season.
And Mir's already the Moto2 race on Sunday there. Mir is a class rider. Well, everyone knows that anyway. But
yeah,
he was out the points after turn 1, and he finished like 4th or 5th, I think. Question mark.
4th, yeah.
Yeah, that shows he's a very quick learner. He's like, if Marc Marquez is 100, he's 95 on that scale. So I think if not Pedrosa, if not Cal, they might go for Mir. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I can't as well with the Alex Marquez. I completely agree. It's taken him way too much time. He's a very good rider, and I'm sure that he's got a really good MotoGP career in front of him. But he's not the kind of rider that you can put straight into a factory team. He's way different from Mark in that respect. I think Mir, as you say, a real quick learner. I would give him 1 more year in Moto2 personally, or a year in a MotoGP smaller team, which that could well be an option for him if he carries on performing in Moto2. You touched upon Cal there.
Yeah,
I think he'll stay at LCR. I think that I think he's liking the dynamic at the moment at LCR, and again, I think he's someone who, over the number of years that he's had at Honda, he hasn't really categorically outperformed Pedrosa. So I think that they'd probably just stick with Pedrosa over him.
Yeah, I think Cal just likes being an underdog.
yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah.
I think it's just his. Obviously I don't know him personally, but I think that's a bit of his style. He just likes being an underdog. So I think, like, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Really, LCR's working well. 3 races in a season, I guess. But they've seemed to have been able to work well for the last couple of years. So I don't see any reason to change that. Obviously, Cal would want to win, but I don't think stepping into that Repsol garage would be the best fit at all.
No, I think it could quite easily Because when you're at the smaller team, even though he's got that factory support, he's got the bike there. There's always the kind of, I'm not expected to do week in, week out the job that Marc Marquez does. But if you're teammates with him, you do. And there's very few riders that can do that. Which moves us on to the Zarco thing. Personally, I thought Zarco would be up for the challenge of going against Marc Marquez. I think he would be quite possibly one of, I'm going to say 3 riders currently who could compete against Marquez at Honda. But he seems, even him, who's right on the top of his game, even he's kind of turned down this opportunity of going to Honda to stay in a smaller team with KTM, and I don't think this would be a good move for him, but it looks like he's set to do it. What are your thoughts?
I think this is a bit of a short-term pain, long-term gain. I think he's going to develop that bike. I don't think I don't think he's had much, well, if any input at Yamaha with developing the bike.
Yeah.
And that Honda's, it's Marc's bike. I wouldn't see it as a good fit again, because having 2 prima donna riders almost in one team with pretty different styles, I don't think that would really work. I think KTM is a good move long term. If KTM give him basically everything he wants in terms of developing the bike, and yeah, I see it as a pretty dire looking short term move. But if he can develop that bike, then maybe 2-3 years time he'd be challenging for a championship.
Yeah, I do agree. I just hope, I really, really hope, because I think Zarco is a fantastic rider. I'll be honest, when he was in Moto2, I thought he's a solid driver, but until he got into MotoGP, I didn't realise he was that good. And I really hope that in those couple of years while KTM is still on their feet, that he doesn't lose stock. He's not someone who ends sort of like Lorenzo's situation now, is where he has a couple of bad years and you kind of forget how good he is. I really hope that doesn't happen to him. And I really hope that KTM do get up there, because I don't want him to spend a couple of years at KTM, them not really do anything, and then in 2 years' time when he wants to leave the team, no one really knows what his performance level is. But certainly at the moment, KTM seems to go really forwards in 2017 and then backwards again at the start of this year. So how many years do you reckon it will take then? Use it 2 or 3, you reckon, for KTM?
Well, we don't really know how able Zarco is to develop a bike. Obviously, don't really develop it in Moto2, Moto3, and little, if any, input on the Yamaha so far. If he's able to develop the bike, then yeah, 2 or 3 years and he'll be up the sharp end. I think if KTM give him the tools, he'll get the job done. I reckon. I don't know. I think KTM's a little bit lost, at least on the surface. So I think having a fresh perspective, like as their lead rider, like a proper A-class rider, will do them a world of good. Because Paul and Bradley have never really been rated that highly, at least in MotoGP. So yeah, I think it'd be a good move for KTM, definitely. Zarco, long term, I think it could work out for him very well.
In terms of that KTM lineup, Pol Espargaro is set to stay, and obviously Smith will then exit. It's a shame for Smith. He just hasn't performed when he was given his factory opportunity. Unfortunately, he did. He was really good when he was at Tech 3, but just hasn't really had a great time, unfortunately, at KTM. So that will be the end of the road for him in terms of his factory career, and then we'll see whether he can stay in MotoGP. I really hope he does, because he's a good rider. But yeah, it is looking set.
I'm not too clued on some other moves for 2019, but I think he could go back to Tech 3. If with Tech 3 going to KTM, he's ridden that bike for a while. I might see him go back.
The only problem with that would be because Shirene's doing a good job at Tech 3, and KTM will want to bring up Oliveira, you would imagine. Would there be the room for him? I think Tech 3 would be happy to have him back, but would they want to get rid of? And obviously they've got Folger as well, possibly.
I'm not sure about Folger anyway. I don't know what's happened with that.
I can't see it happening. I think it's too much.
Need to wait till he gets back on a bike, really.
I think you would have to give him a few trial races back before you committed to.
At least an extended test.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure. I know Tech 3 are risk takers, but I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
They'd obviously want to have him back because he can ride very, very well. Saw that in Sachsenring. But I don't know.
I can't.
But
personally, I can't see it happening, unfortunately. Yeah. It's a real shame, but I think a lot of the time when you have these kind of these illnesses or injuries, you either come back from it pretty quickly and it's all good, or you kind of a little bit taking your time, sort of like with Kubica in Formula 1, where I think he's just left it a little bit too long, and then people are just a little bit unsure about it. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about it, but I think that's the same with Folger. Right, next then, Suzuki. Rins, definitely, he's 100% staying. Second seat, Zarco was rumoured there, but he's definitely not going there because they turned him down in the past for Rins. They were going to sign him, and then they said, no, we're having Rins instead, which Rins is a good rider, but that was a missed opportunity, unfortunately, for them. Iannone, we both think is out the door, and we think Lorenzo.
Yep.
Well, I can't remember. I think we talked about this in the last episode. We think that would be a good move for him. Hopefully regaining his confidence, a little bit less pressure as well, a slightly smaller team, and a bike that would suit him a lot more, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. If he went to Suzuki, he would need to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
He can't stumble again.
Yeah.
But that's a bit worrying when Renzo being his third year. He's getting stronger all the time. First podium in Argentina. It's another risk, another massive risk for Lorenzo, like reputation wise. But the bike should definitely suit him a lot more. Then he needs to unlearn all the stuff he's tried to adapt to fit the Ducati.
Yeah.
And go back to pretty much Yamaha again to go forward.
Yeah.
So it's a real mess, and with someone as head focused as Lorenzo, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts exactly. But it is such a shame, isn't it, when it's just 2 years, literally just flushed down the toilet. Unfortunately, but that's looking what it's going to be. He might be able to find a bit of form, but somehow I doubt it. I think his Ducati career is just kind of going to peter out until the end of his contract. But I do think Suzuki will happen, unless Iannone really picks up his form and Lorenzo struggles, like really struggles. But even then, I think they'll probably go with Lorenzo. They don't seem to like Iannone that much. In terms of Iannone, then Aprilia, I'm thinking, replacing Redding.
I don't know about Iannone. I think I'm not sure that'd be a good fit at Aprilia either for Iannone. I think there's been kind of said in the past that Iannone is a bit of a playboy. I'm not sure Aprilia / Grusini would like that. Yeah. After what happened with Lowe's last year, and Redden doesn't seem to be really doing anything. I'm not sure. I think they should keep Redden and actually give him some actual time. but I don't really know what's going to happen with Iannone.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any. I don't see him. Well, I could see him being a bit of a diva and not really going for a. He'd pass up an Avintia or a Angel Nieto ride, something like that. He'd probably end up passing up on something like that. But I haven't got a clue. You know.
If I was Aprilia really want an Italian rider. And I think that's why Iannone will go there. But I agree with you. I don't think I would take him. But then I don't think Redding's doing a great job. So then would I keep Redding? I'm not sure. So I'd definitely keep Aleix Espargaro, 100%. I'd keep him. But I would be unsure about that second seat. If they were to go for an Italian rider, which is what looks like they want to do, I would go with Petrucci. But then if Lorenzo is going to Suzuki, then Petrucci is probably going to get his chance in the factory Ducati team. Yeah. Do you think that will happen? It's getting tough now, isn't it?
Yeah, I have no idea. To be honest with you. I've done my research. Can you tell? I think if Aprilia were to bring on someone who could be a long-term prospect, I could see maybe Baldassarri or Marini.
Ooh. That I'd not even considered that, but Baldassarri has made a real step forward this year, hasn't he? So maybe.
For one race, I guess, really.
Yeah.
Or two. But yeah, there's not really any. Well, Bagnaia has already been snapped up. Maybe actually Fanati, if they really want to be a risk taker. For me, there isn't really any other Italians in Moto2, at least, that are up at the sharp end.
Pacini. I can't see that.
He's a bit old, I guess, isn't he?
I wouldn't do that. I think he's a very good rider, but I think he's kind of that point of his career now where it's best for him just to stay in Moto2 and try and do really well in that.
Almost like Tom Luthi, really.
Yeah.
He's the one that kind of same thing kind of happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I still think I'd probably be as well sticking with Redding.
Yeah.
At least see how he goes through some European races, but
yeah, they can't rush. I would say with Aprilia, they don't want to rush.
Yeah, they did that with Sam. It seemed like they just rushed it all. Like I expected him to kind of be the test mule.
Yeah.
In his first year.
I think with Lowe's they did in the end they did make the right call, but they did make it too early, and they were lucky that it turned out that he didn't find form at the end of the season. But yeah, I hope that they don't rush with Redding. But yeah. So going back to Ducati, Petrucci. Honestly, if I was Ducati, I would put Miller in the second seat. I'd just risk it.
Yeah.
But I think, in terms of my head, I think Petrucci will go there.
I would. My head and my heart would say Miller.
Oh, head as well.
Yeah.
Based off his performances, you would say so, but
yeah. Petrucci only really seems to do anything in the wet.
Yeah.
That's not really. Well, Miller is a risk taker.
Yeah.
And that might really work out well. If Ducati takes a risk on him, we wouldn't need to pay him as much as Lorenzo. So there's that. Yeah. I think with how much Miller's matured, relatively speaking, over the last couple of years, I think he's really starting to up his game. Yeah. So I think Ducati would do right by choosing him. He can ride the Ducati. at least equal to, if not better than Lorenzo. So they'd be as well. Take a punt. I think Petrucci's just a little bit stale now. I don't think that's the right word.
I think he's too inconsistent because he'll be one race he'll do really well, the hype will get too much, and then the next race he kind of underperforms massively. You can't have that in a factory team. In a smaller team it's fine because when he's on great form, like he is quite a lot of the time to be honest, it's really good. And then when you have your bad performances, you think, well, it doesn't matter because he does well. But in a factory team, you need to perform week in, week out. And weirdly, despite Miller's early career being the most inconsistent thing in the history of MotoGP, now I would say he's a more consistent performer than...
He's a MotoGP rider now.
Yeah, yeah. And possibly one more. This won't happen, but they might... just for a second, think about possibly even Tito Rabat after his performances, but I would give that a bit more time.
I wouldn't see that happen. I think Tito Rabat would do well to stay where he is and just slowly build his stock.
Yeah.
Don't take any risks.
What I could see them possibly doing is thinking about Rabat and thinking, oh yeah, not now. But what we'll do is we'll maybe give Avinti a bit more factory support for Rabat, possibly, for the next season. Just to give him that opportunity, if he carries on performing, of course.
If Rabat keeps on doing well, if Miller moves up to the factory team, you can see him on Pramac back, right? Pramac back, Pramac bike, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah, because Petrucci has definitely gone from Pramac. We know that. So if Petrucci goes up to Ducati, obviously he leaves, or he just leaves, and then he would probably go to Aprilia then. So there's going to be... Bagnaia will come in, as we know, and then it will depend on what Miller's doing. So maybe Rabat might move, I don't know. I'm not sure whether Ducati would say, if you need more, if you want more factory support, you have to go to Pramac, or we're willing to help Avinti a bit more. Personally, I'd like to see them help Avinti, but I do tend to agree that they'd probably say, come on over to Pramac, because that's obviously got more of a saying with Ducati.
Yeah.
Right, I think we've been... this is going to be a long one. We've still got a few more things to cover. So that is riders. It is a tough one to call, but those are kind of our ideas. The final few things about the independent teams. Obviously, Tech 3 are changing to KTM bikes next year, and this has kind of sparked off a whole change in what independent teams want. It used to go with independent teams would get year-old of the best bikes, so Ducati, Honda, and Yamaha. But now what they tend to be doing is going to these newer, lesser performing factories and saying we can have a full factory bike with a little bit of factory support at a smaller manufacturer. So obviously that's what Tech 3 have done with KTM, and that's what looks like Mark VDS are going to do with Suzuki. At the moment they've got year-old Hondas with no factory support, but it looks like they're going to be switching to Suzuki bikes with kind of up-to-date and everything. And this is very similar to Tech 3, basically. Not confirmed, but it looks pretty set to do. Do you think that is a good call for them?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Good moves on both Tech 3 and Mark VDS. I think it'll boost their stock. Like Mark VDS will definitely boost their stocks in MotoGP. It could potentially see Alex Marquez like, I might have a route into a decent bike if I get my thumb out. So that could have a knock-on effect all the way down. It'll lift the team spirits, at least, that's for sure. I don't know how it'll affect Morbidelli and Luthi. I don't know what's happening with them. They've not done anything. If it's down to the bikes or them, who knows? Yeah, that's a big kind of grey area for them
Yeah.
because they've got the kind of Tito Rabat kind of syndrome almost.
Yeah. I think it's the perfect time to get away from this Honda idea for Marc VDS, because Marc VDS are the young rider team in MotoGP, and it's not the right bike basically for young riders to come onto. It is a good bike. Obviously, it won the World Championship last year, and they've got a World Championship winning bike, but it's useless for rookie riders. Weirdly, it's just how the specifics of MotoGP work out. So I think that would be perfect for them, and I think they'll hold on to Morbidelli for as you say, that Honda's quite difficult. I think Lucy will be gone, to be honest. He's I think he always kind of came in as a stopgap, waiting for Alex Marquez and possibly Joan Mir as well to come in. I don't really think it was a long-term move.
Is it possible he's still feeling some hangover from his injuries last year? Is that possible? He was pretty beaten up at the end of last year. He could barely walk at the prize giving.
I don't know. But, yeah. I think
there's not a lot of spotlight on them, so we don't really know.
No, I to be honest, I haven't really seen much of him all year, and that's kind of why I think that they're going to get rid of him, because you think, well, if he's not being seen, he's obviously not doing much. So I think he'll be gone, and then I think that they'll. But then it gets weird, because then you've got Alex Marquez, who obviously, with Mark being Honda, Alex Marquez would then be riding a Suzuki, even though you have Honda relations, and then it gets all really confusing, and then who knows what would be the case on that one. But I'm sure that will work itself out. And in terms of then the Yamaha bike that Tech 3 left, it's looking, so obviously Tech 3 is confirmed at KTM, Marc VDS looks set for Suzuki, and then the rumours, this is still in its early stages, is the Angel Nieto, formerly Aspar team, would then get that Yamaha bike. And we were talking before we started recording about there's that link between Angel Nieto, of course, and then one of his sons is running that team now, and then obviously Pablo Nieto is running the VR46 team, which should be coming into MotoGP in 2021 with Yamaha. So there is that possibility of Angel Nieto taking the bikes for 2 years, and then a possible merge. So how likely do we reckon that?
I hadn't heard about this until you mentioned to me just before we started recording. So I really don't know. I think it'd be a interesting thing to see. At least someone else getting the Yamahas and seeing how it goes. I don't really know if it'd be useful for VR46 at least, because it's 2 years from now, really. So I don't really know what they can gain from that apart from just running a MotoGP team, or running the Yamaha bikes.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of one of the things you don't know how it's going to work until you actually see it on track.
Yeah, I think
it'd be a step up in performance at least.
Yeah, what I would say,
are they still on the 14 bikes or 15?
16 Abraham, 17 Bautista, but Bautista's struggling on 17 big style.
Right.
So yeah,
it'd be an interesting one. It would depend. It could depend on the riders as well, how the performance goes.
Yeah.
Neither of the two riders have run a Yamaha before, as far as I can tell. Anyway, so I don't know how it'd work. Assuming they keep their riders.
I would say that they would. Obviously, it would be the Angel Nieto team. I think that it would only be a deal with the VR46 team in terms of plonking in riders to keep them, because obviously they've already lost
Baldassarri then. Could that be Baldassarri?
It could be, because they've already lost Bagnaia, and they were really disappointed about that. And I think they would want to have a team where they could keep control of the VR46 riders and not lose them like they have with Bagnaia, who's looks set now to be Ducati for the first few years of his career. So I wouldn't see it as them running the team in conjunction. It would just be holding riders there. And I think with Bautista underperforming and Abraham's done all right, but he's not going to be anything in big time. I think Angel Neto would be quite happy to then say, right, we'll take the VR46 young riders for a couple of years. So that's how I see it would happen. But that is just thoughts in my head. Really, not
very good move.
Not much evidence to go off that. Right, we need to crack on. That was a very interesting discussion, and I'm glad that we've had that. That's good. But it has taken a very long time. So we'll just quickly now move on to Jerez. And obviously Honda last year took a 1-2 with Pedrosa winning, as we said. Marc Marquez second. And we expect this to be the same this year, basically, with Honda being the strongest bike. How close do we see Yamaha and Ducati being, Suzuki as well?
Well, that third guy on the podium last year, he could maybe be a bit of a surprise.
Yes.
Mr.
I don't think so, but he could be. He could be.
So many small little things change over the course of a season. I think Yamahas will be closer than they were last year.
Yeah, they were horrendous last year. They were 6th and 10th, I think.
Yeah. I could maybe see them challenging second, third. Ducati's, well, it was 1 up, 1 down last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'd like to see Lorenzo do well again, but I don't see it happening. His head's dropped quite a bit.
Yeah.
That was still early on in the season last year.
Yeah.
First year on the bike, so his head was sort of high then. It's dropped pretty sharply this year so far. So I don't see anything apart from a Honda or a Yamaha on the podium.
No, I would agree. I think with Ducati, as you said, Lorenzo third last year, kind of the breakthrough moment that didn't result in a breakthrough, weirdly. But I don't see that happening again because I think the competition's got more fierce. And as you say, second year, I think his head has unfortunately dropped now. I think Suzuki.
I was going to say Suzuki.
I really want to see them do well again. They've had 2 good rounds in a row, and I really hope that into the European season they carry it on and they can keep performing. I'd absolutely love to see that. I think it could happen as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'd actually be Rins rather than Iannone. He's had his podium.
Yeah.
Time for Rins to get some more.
Yeah. Again, I would like Iannone to prove us wrong, but I agree. I think I can't see it repeating itself weirdly, but you never ever know. So there we go. That is our vague predictions for Jerez, and also our kind of talks about the rider market. Of course, if you've got any ideas on this rider market, put it down in the comments down below. And if you want to, you can put out the whole grid and tell us who's going to be where. Because I think we could... it's still quite open at the moment, but I think in a couple of weeks' time we're going to start seeing these dominoes falling now. So that's why I've got it in now in this episode. So thank you very much for listening. And we will be back next time, obviously, with a review of that Jerez round. And I hope you join us then. And maybe we'll have a bit more news about 2019 as well. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.